Okay, so today we are going to be reading Jack and the Beanstalk, and this is adapted by Sindy, McKay, Sindy, and it is illustrated by Lydia, Halverson. So, I picked this book in particular because I have actually worked with first and second graders on it before, last semester in one of my Missouri State classes, and we did a pretty cool activity to go along with it, which I'll talk about later. So this is a folk tale, and there's many characteristics of a folk tale. One of them is, does the story begin with once upon a time or long, long ago? Most folk tales also have magical elements in them. There's usually a good versus evil. Something happens or someone is evil, and there's always a happy ending. And usually there's repeated words or phrases inside the book. So what I would do is, if students are listening to me read this book in front of them, if they hear one of these elements that usually goes along with a folktale, they'll give me a thumbs up. So that's one activity that we did while reading this book. Okay. Once upon a time, a poor widow lived in a tiny cottage with her young son Jack. Jack was a good boy, but he knew nothing of the world beyond his home. Jack and his mother were so poor that the only thing they had to eat or drink was milk from their cow. One day, the cow stopped giving milk, leaving Jack and his mother with nothing at all to fill their bellies. Mother gave Jack the cow. She told Jack to take it to town. She told Jack to sell it. Jack did as he was told. Jack set off to town and had not traveled far when a woman approached and said, "Good morning, Jack." "Good morning," he replied, surprised that she knew his name. "That's a fine-looking cow," said the woman. "I will trade you 4 beans for it." Jack looked up at his big cow. He looked down at the small beans. He said to the woman, "No, thank you." "You drive a hard bargain, Jack," the woman replied, "but I want this cow, so I will give you 5 beans for it." Then the woman whispered in his ear, "These are no ordinary beans, Jack. They are magic. They hold the answer to all your dreams." Okay, so I would ask the students, okay, so these beans are magical. That is one of our elements of a folktale. Jack had many dreams. He wanted to see his mother happy, so he gave the woman his cow. Then he took the beans to his mother, but his mother was not happy. Does she look very happy in this picture? Jack told his mother the beans were magic, but she did not believe in magic anymore. She threw the beans out the window, then sent Jack to his bed with an empty stomach. The next morning, she was surprised to find a giant tall beanstalk had grown outside their window, but Jack was not surprised at all. So we see Jack here, he's very happy. The mom is in shock that they have this giant beanstalk growing. Jack kissed his mother goodbye, then he went up the beanstalk to find his dreams. When Jack got to the top, he saw a very big house. As Jack walked toward the big house, he was once again met by the woman he had traded him for the magic beans. She told him that there was a horrible giant living inside the house, and that when Jack was very young, this very same giant had killed Jack's father and stolen all he owned. So you see, Jack, everything in this house really belongs to you and your mother. Okay, so once again, we have good versus evil here. We have the bad giant. Jack knew what he had to do. He had to get his things back. He had to get them for his mother. He had to get them from the big, mean giant. As Jack neared the huge house, he spotted the giant's wife sweeping the doorstep. Jack was scared. He knew that the little boy was the favorite meal to both giants and giantess alike, so he did not ask to be invited in. Instead, he grabbed her broom and was swept through the door. So we have this huge broom, and there's Jack going through the door. Everything in the house was very big. It made Jack feel very small. It also made him feel very scared. He did not want to meet the giant. Suddenly, Jack heard the sound of enormous footsteps. He scurried up the curtain cord to a high shelf where he quickly hid inside a sack of gold. Then he heard the giant shout, "Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." The giant came into the room. He was very big and very mean. The room shook with each step he took. So here we have a picture of the giant. The giant began to tear the room apart, looking for Jack. His wife, upon hearing he was looking for a yummy little boy, eagerly joined in. But soon the giant grew tired of looking and ordered his wife to bring him his sacks of gold instead. The giant took the sack that Jack was in, but he did not open it. The giant took another sack to begin to count his gold. Oh, what happened to the giant here? Does it look like he's asleep? Fortunately, the giant was not very good with his numbers, and he had to quickly start over with 1. This tired him quickly, and soon he fell asleep. That's when Jack tiptoed from his hiding place to stare in awe at the giant's gold, which really belonged to him and his mother. Okay, so here we're going to have a repeated phrase that we heard earlier. Jack knew what he had to do. He had to get the gold back. He had to get it for his mother. He had to get it from the big, mean giant. Jack hoisted a sack of gold upon his back. Then, so the giant would not think it was missing when he woke, Jack replaced the gold with a sack of beans. Quiet as a mouse, Jack slipped down out of the giant's house and ran all the way down the beanstalk and quickly slid back down to earth. Jack's mother was very happy to see Jack and the gold, but she did not want Jack to ever go back up there again. But Jack knew what he had to do. Several days later, Jack climbed up the beanstalk once more. He ran straight to the giant's house and heaved a huge rock at the big front door. When the giant's wife opened it to see who was knocking, Jack slipped into the house behind her. Jack went from room to room. He saw many things. Things the giant took from his father, and then when the house began to shake, the giant was home. Okay, so here we go again. Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. Jack gasped in fear as he crouched behind a nearby cage to hide. From there, he watched in terror as the giant and his wife tore the room apart looking for him. Jack was very still. He did not make a sound. Soon the giants grew tired of looking. He and his wife gave up. The giant ordered his wife to bring him his cage with the golden goose, the very cage behind where Jack was hiding. Jack scrambled into the shadows and continued to watch as the giant took the goose from the cage. When Jack saw what Jack saw next nearly took his breath away, for the golden goose began to lay golden eggs. Jack knew what he had to do. He had to get his goose back. He had to get it for his mother. He had to get it away from the big, mean giant. The giant soon grew tired of watching the wondrous goose lay golden eggs, and, with a yawn and stretch, he fell asleep. That's when Jack tiptoed from his hiding place and grabbed the golden goose. Then, to keep it from honking, Jack snatched a chunk of bread and fed it to the goose as they fled. Jack ran out the door. He ran down the road. Then the goose went honk and woke the giant up. Uh-oh. The giant leaped from his chair to chase Jack. His huge strides began to get closer with every step. Jack jumped onto the beanstalk just as the big mean giant reached out his arms to grab him. Luckily for Jack, the giant missed. Jack went down the beanstalk. His mother was at the bottom. She was glad that Jack was safe. She did not want Jack to go ever back up there. But Jack knew what he had to do. The next time Jack returned to the giant's house, he sneaked in through the open window. Once inside, Jack heard a haunting voice singing a beautiful song. He followed the sound and found the giants listening to a magic harp. Okay, so we had the magic bean, the magic golden eggs, and now we have the giant singing harp. Jack knew what he had to do. He had to get the harp back. He had to get it for his mother. He had to get it back from the big, mean giant. Suddenly, the giant ordered the harp to stop singing, and he put his nose into the air to sniff. Jack froze. He knew what was coming next. Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. The giant looked for Jack. His wife looked for Jack. But soon they got tired and gave up. The giant ordered the harp to sing again, and this time she sang a lullaby. Before long, the rafters were shaking with the giant's mighty snores. That's when Jack tiptoed from his hiding place and grabbed up the magic harp. Then, to keep the giant from chasing him, he put the giant's shoes inside a crock-pot pot. Jack ran out the door. He ran down the road. Then the harp began to sing and woke the giant up. The furious giant jumped up to chase Jack. Immediately, he realized that his shoes were missing. This only made him even more angry and more determined than ever to catch Jack and gobble him up. The giant frantically searched for his missing shoes, then finally gave up and chased Jack in his bare feet. Jack ran very fast, but the giant ran faster. Jack went down the beanstalk, but the giant went down the beanstalk too. Jack slid down the beanstalk, and in the wink of an eye, then he shouted for his mother to bring him an axe. With 3 mighty whacks, Jack chopped the beanstalk down. The plant toppled and crashed down to earth. But when it crashed, with a crash, the big mean giant. That was the end of the beanstalk. That was the end of the giant too. And Jack and his mother lived happily ever after. So our last characteristic was that it does have a happy ending. So this book did have a happy ending as well.